Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalam ala rasulillah, amma ba'du. Then here we are, inshallah ta'ala, on our fifth verb inside form 1 of a Sahih, a Salim, those sound verbs which do not contain an alif, a waw, or a ya in them as any of the root letters. And I ran this by one of my teachers and best friends, and I asked him to review one or two of the verbs that we've done, and he made some points that I'm going to make some minor changes here, and I'll explain as we go, inshallah ta'ala. The first one, I want to make sure that everyone who listens to these knows that this is not for someone who is a real beginner, who has no idea of conjugation or any of that. Rather, they should have had some introduction to this and be ready to put in some effort. And the more introduction or the more exposure to this you've had, then the easier it will be, bi'idhnillah ta'ala. So this is more so for review and practice, not so much as for teaching. That's the first point I want to make clear. The next 3 points, inshallah ta'ala, that he gave me, I will mention, or 4 points possibly, I will mention, inshallah ta'ala, as we go through the lesson. The jidr, and if we remember, I added this section here to the PDF, and I put it inside the word for dhakara, the verb for dhakara, and inshallah ta'ala, I will try to put it in this description as well, and then from here on out it will be in the descriptions and we won't need it, right? So al-jidr, the root of the verb we're going to do today is ha, jim, zayt, right? And the verb is hajaza, yahjuzu, right? The wasn't, as we said, is number 1. I put a Roman numeral because that's what I usually see, at least in the English. I see a Roman numeral 1 there. You could just put a 1 if you like. It's up to you, right? You could use an Arabic number 1 if you like, or Arabic number 2, 3, 4, as you like, or as we see what the Arabs use. But right now I'm used to doing it in English, and I usually see the Roman numeral 1. The no, as we said, the type is a Sahih. It's a little hard for me to write on the side, right sideways here. Sahih Salim. And the ma'na of hajaza is to reserve. To reserve, like to reserve tickets, to reserve a seat, so on and so forth, right? For some of you who might be reserving seats to come to Kuwait and visit us and benefit, bi'idhnillah ta'ala. So the verb is hajaza yahjuzu, right? Al-ghaib, al-mudhakkar mufrad, hajaza. Al-ghaib, and remember, I'm going to try to do it quickly. Al-ghaib means third person, right? He's missing from the conversation. Al-mukhatib is second person, the one who you're talking to, like in a khutbah, you talk to the people, right? Al-mutakallim is the one who's doing the talking. Al-mufrad is singular, al-muthanna is dual, and al-jam is plural. So inshallah ta'ala, we won't continue to explain that every time, maybe sometimes just to reinforce it. So third person, masculine singular, hajaza. Al-ghaib mudhakkar mufrad, hajaza. Muthanna dual, hajaza. We add the alif al-ithnain, hajaza, right? And then when we want the jam, the plural, we add the waw al-jama'a, the waw of plural, or plurality, and we protect it with an alif. We say hajazu. Right? Then for female, she, hiya, we say hajazat. Hajazat. Now, one of the things that my teacher, he said, this ta'neith, this does not mean hiya in and of itself. It's just a marker, a sign, right, for showing femininity. But it does not mean hiya, such as in, I'm going to go down, hajazta. Right? Hajazta. This ta here with this fatha, it actually means enta. It is actually the doer of the verb. Hajazta. Hajazta. That's actually the fa'il or the doer of the verb. Here in hajazat, this is just a marker showing it's feminine. It does not mean hiya, but it implies it. There's not much different from what I said, but I just want to make it clear that that ta does not represent hiya. It just implies hiya. Hopefully that's clear. When we want to talk about two females that are not here, ghaib, we say hajazata. Right? We add the alif al-ithnain. And when we talk about three or more females who are not here, al-ghaib, we add the noon and niswa, hajazna. Right? And then we already said mukhatab hajazta, anta hajazta, antuma hajaztuma. Right? Antum hajaztum. Now, like I said, this ta and tuma and tum, they're actually the file. They're the doer. They represent enta, antuma, and antum. Here we have enti. We say hajazti. This actually represents the enti. All right, hajazti. Hajaztuma. And hajaztunna. Right? And then hajaztu for ana. The two here, it represents ana. And it means ana. Versus up here, this ta, hajazat, that implies hiya. But here, tu, it means ana. As far as the muthanna, I've been saying that there is no muthanna. Because I mean that there is no separate word for muthanna. Rather, the brother, he said maybe we should put hajazna. And so maybe we will do that from now on. And Allah knows best. Hajazna, just the same as hajazna here. Because in first person, there can be two people. There can be two people, but it's just the same form as three or more. Whereas in the other forms, it's not. So I want to make that clear. I think I said that a number of times, or at least I implied it. But inshallah ta'ala, from here on out, just so there won't be any confusion for someone to say, I can't talk about two of us doing something. No, yes you can. You're just going to use the same as the jam when you use the muthanna. And Allah knows best. That is the fil madi. That's the past tense. Right? Now, the present tense. Al-mudari' yahjuzu. If we notice that our middle letter here has a dhamma on it. Right? Not like yajlisu or something with a kasra or something with a fatha. Rather, yashrabu. Rather, here it has a dhamma. That's what we want to pay attention to on our present tense. Right? So, yahjuzu. What are we going to do when it becomes muthanna? We're going to add an alif for ithnain. and a noon for being marfu. So we'll say yahjuzani. Yahjuzani. And then when we want it to be plural, we're going to add a waw, a jama', and a noon for being marfu. We're going to say yahjuzuna. Yahjuzuna. We want it to be feminine, we say tahjuzu. Tahjuzu. Right? Here we say tahjuzani. Tahjuzani. And then we want it to be feminine, third person, plural. We add the noon of niswa. We do not add any other thing for plural or dual or the noon of being marfu. Rather, the noon that we're going to add is the noon of niswa. So we say yahjuzna. Yahjuzna. Then it comes to second person, you, anta. We're talking to you about it. You are reserving, or you will reserve. Then tahjuzu. Right? Tahjuzani. Antuma tahjuzani. For those who might be confused for a second here, I wrote the ta here. I did it like this for connecting purposes, like you might find in the Quran. Right? And you could even do like this. Right? You could even double stack the ha's and so on, the ha and the jim. But I stacked the ta on top of the ha, and here I didn't do so. Right here we want to make it you, enta, entum, second person plural. We're going to say, we're going to add the waw, a jama', and the noon for being marfu, like I said before. Tahjuzuna. Right? Talking to a female, you are reserving to a female. We're going to add the ya al-mukhataba and the noon for being marfu. So we say tahjuzina. Tahjuzina. Right? And then tahjuzani. And then again on this second person female plural, we're going to add the noon and niswa. Tahjuzna. Right? And then we're going to say al-mutakallim, I'm talking, ahjuzu. And then again, these are the same, so we can say nahjuzu. If you continue and you want to keep putting a dash there because they're the same and you understand that, no problem. Some of the books, they teach it as if there is no dual because it's the same. Some of the books only give us these 14 and they skip this form here, right? No problem. Some of them give it to us. I'm used to them skipping it, and so that's what I did. But the brother advised me that I should make that clear, and he gave it to me as a choice, and I chose to, inshallah, make it clear. Okay, as we said, this al-mudari', this present tense, as we have it here, is when it is marfu'. Nothing in front of it that's going to change it. If something comes in front of it, those things that can come in front of it, and, lan, idhin, and kate, these 4 words, right? When they come in front of a present tense verb, they make it mansoob. What does that mean for us? It means our dhammas are all going to become fathas. And our noon of being marfu are all going to be dropped. Here we'll add an alif, right? All these are going to be dropped. Right? All these are going to be dropped. And it's going to be tahjuzi, tahjuza, yahjuza, yahjuza, yahjuzu, like this. Right? These two, as we said, third person and second person feminine plural, they're going to stay the same. There's noon of niswa, makes them mebni. If they become mejzoom, and that is when you put the la of a nahiya, the la of a prohibition, or in, right, which is a condition, or lam in front of them, then they become mejzoom, which means our dhamma or our fatha is going to be a sukoon. Right? It's going to be a sukoon. And then again, all of our noons are going to be there. We'll add these alifs to protect. So on and so forth, right? And these two, third person feminine, second person feminine plural, they're going to remain mebni. They're not going to change because of that noon and niswa. Inshallah, hopefully that's becoming clear. If anyone has a question, then that's related to grammar, but inshallah we can throw a little bit of extra stuff in there every once in a while, bi'idhnillah ta'ala. Right? The command, we don't have that in third person and first person, and this is the fourth thing that he wanted to bring up. I have been saying that the fil amr is majzoom because it had the sukoon on it. Some of the people say that, such as the people of Kufa. However, al-Basriyun, they say that it is mebni. And this is what I learned, but somewhere along the line, I picked up a point of the Kufiyun, right? No problem, inshallah ta'ala. It doesn't change how it looks. It just changes how we talk about it when we make it Arab. So for instance, we had our verb. I'm going to scroll up just a little bit so we can see it. Right? We had here, and it's missing. If I came all the way up, would it happen? Would it come back? Anyway, it's tahjuzu, right? Tahjuzu. What do? We drop our ta. Our ha has a sukoon, so we need to add an alif. And instead of the dhamma, we put a sukoon here. And the same thing would be on the feminine. We drop our sign of being marfu' and we just put a sukoon. So we drop our sign of being marfu', which would be just having our ya left there, right? The same thing here. We drop our noons. But our noon and this will stay there. And it's called mebni. So here, this juz, and it's going to be because of the vowel that's on the gene. We're not going to write it there, but that's how you would pronounce it. Juz. We're going to say this is, instead of saying majzoom, which I've been saying, we're going to say mebni ala sukoon. And then here in dual, we're going to say juza. We're going to say mebni ala hadaf noon. It's going to be mebni by dropping the noon. Here is the same thing. Juzu. Mebni, this is mebni ala hadaf noon, on dropping the noon. This same thing here, juzi. Right? Juzi. Right? It's juzi for you to a female. You reserve, talking to your wife or your daughter, for instance, you reserve our tickets, right? Juzi. Then this is mebni, meaning it doesn't change, ala hadaf noon, on the dropping of the noon. And then here again, juza. Let me write that better. Juza, mebni ala hadaf noon. And juzna. We just say mebni ala fath here because it's always going to have that fatha there. Juzna. Right? So I was saying there was majzoom and not mebni. Okay, here is the last point that we want to bring up that I was advised with. And we'll talk about it after we do this. The fa'il here is hajiz. Right? Hajiz. If we notice, they're basically following this pattern of fa'il, hajiz. Same thing here. Al-maf'ul, mahjuz. mahjuz. And inshallah ta'ala, I'm going to make a video about scales and how that works and what that means exactly. Mahjuz. And the masdar is hajz or hajzun. Right? Now, the last point the brother brought up to me, and that is some of these fa'ils and maf'uls that we may bring up, they may not be the pure fa'il or pure maf'ul or masdar. They may be ismu fa'il or ismu maf'ul or ismu like this. They may have a little bit difference, but this is how we find it in the application the cave al-mughara. And this is what we see in some different books that we have. And so we may bring. So for instance, we said as-sami' is the fa'il. Right? This is actually ismu fa'il sigal mubalagha. This is like an emphasized version of ismu fa'il, the noun of it. It's not really the fa'il itself. But this is a technical point, and it's not that much. There is a difference, and I don't want to downplay the difference, but at the same time, it's not necessarily wrong to include it here. So just know that a lot of times, what you learn in Arabic is going to change. It's going to be altered in the future. We say, this is the rule, this is how you talk about this is what you do for this, and what happens is, later on, you find a rule that contradicts that. It's not that you learned something wrong or your teacher taught you wrong, but it's that, for instance, when we're in first grade, second grade, we learn that you cannot take 1 from 0. You cannot take 1. If you don't have anything, how can you take something away? That's how you're taught. You can't do that. Your number can. But then when you're in 5th grade, 6th grade, you start to learn more complex principles. You learn that you can say 0 minus 1 is -1. You learn that there's a negative, and you get a graph like this, and a line, and you're able to figure out +1, -1, -2. You start learning things that you were told couldn't happen before. Same thing happens in Arabic. And so I want you guys to understand that we might say something, and as well, there are different opinions. There are the people of Kufa who have one opinion, and they call things one thing. So you might have seen in Ajrumiyya, it talks about khaft, right? Instead of jar, right? They say khaft instead of jar. Sometimes they use different terminology, and sometimes they look at words in different ways, and they apply different rules, but the end result is usually the same. And I just want you guys to be aware of that, inshallah ta'ala. I am prone to making mistakes, so I'm not trying to exclude myself from making a mistake, but I'm also giving you heads up that some things you learn here, you're learning ground level stuff, and later on you will develop that, and you will find that it contradicts something that you learned as a rule. And we say in English, rules are meant to be broken, although not all of them. Inshallah, that's clear. If there's any comments or questions or concerns or corrections, then place them in the footnotes. Remember to share your work on Facebook. You go to Facebook where these videos are available on Mustafa with 2 A's at the end, Mustafa Nicholas. And inshallah ta'ala, a few people have been sharing their work. And this is a way of holding ourselves accountability. I'm holding myself, you're holding yourself. One day I don't put my paper up there, then what? Right? Means Abu Muawiyah didn't do his work. I don't want nobody to think I'm a bum, even though I'm doing it for Allah. Same time, we're doing it to help each other and hold each other accountable. Inshallah, until next time. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And sorry for the length.